What does Gervonta Tank Davis think about the fight between two people he once fought, Pitbull Cruz and Lamont Roach? In this video, I'm going to break it down and let you know what's going on. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, $1 million question, Gervonta Davis, two guys he fought. What does he have to say? Now, he's been on social media and he said a couple of things. And to be honest, I'm not going to put them all on the screen and all that because he's just talking on Twitter and it got cussing and stuff. And then that could affect the monetization. We're not doing all that. So take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. I don't really care. This is what happened. So I'll show you some of them, but some of them I got to censor as I'm reading them. Gervonta Davis said, ask Coach Cameron, how does his throat feel? And he's saying that because I guess Cameron was siding with Lamont Roach. A fan says, the game miss you, broski. This ish is so bunk now. Gervonta Davis said, F y'all. Ray Jackson, you lied about fighting 3 times this year. And Tank says, I turned you into a fanboy. LOL, your boy took mad punishment. I never looked like that in the fight. And I think he's talking about Lamont Roach. And a fan says, Mace is talking crazy. Gervonta Davis says, what'd he say? I'll pull up to that show and beat the ish out of Mace. Right? Ask Coach Cameron how his throat feel. Mace talking crazy. And Tank says, what'd he say? I'll pull up to that show and beat the crap out of Mace. Then Tank, someone said, Ninja, this your last fight. Gervonta said, now let's put the videos by each other and see who was really hurt. It's Sunday, your forklift parked and secured. I know you have nothing but time. Put the videos up side by side. So he beefing with people on that. He said, Ninja gatekeeper, that's it. So I'm assuming he's talking about Lamont Roach. Do he fight the same? Did he change anything up? I'll be there whenever I'm ready to call his name. Now get off my duh. I might get the better man. This my show. Right? Somebody says you and Manny Pacquiao would be huge. Tank put fingernail polish emoji. Like, the Ninja Roach went on a whole tour celebrating a draw against you just to get one against Pitbull Cruz, and you beat him with one hand for half the fight. And Tank says they only doing that to keep him in the loop for other guys. His lost. Right? So he's saying Roach lost to Pitbull. Somebody says, so many people love to watch you fight, but this attitude that you've adopted recently is effing terrible. Tank says, attitude recently? Have you seen how they've been treating me? You turn your back on me, I'll turn mine. Like I said, F y'all. Wow. Then he says, they only doing that to keep him in the loop for other guys. He lost. I don't know. See you bark, but about Cruz, Ninja. And he says, I'm taking him next soon as I get my knee better. I told him, he said no problem. And then Tank retweeted this. Lamont Roach getting punched into the ropes. Right? You see Gervonta Davis reposted. Funny how tables turn. Now that's what you call a knockdown. Now, Gervonta Davis has every right to talk his talk. I fully support that 100%. I'm about that. I like that. Keep talking that talk. You know why? Because boxing fans are fickle. lot of fickle idiots in the sport of boxing, and they're prisoners of the moment, and that's the new norm in the sport of boxing, right? Where everybody, when they're on top, everything's looking good, everybody's on your team. As soon as you have a stumbling block, a roadblock, a loss, no one's on the team no more. People start looking down, especially on boxing Twitter is horrible, bro. Boxing Twitter is probably the worst. I don't know. It's either Facebook or boxing Twitter, one of them. These are horrible boxing fans. They're not even really fans. In my word is man fans. Y'all know I came up with that, right? These dudes are man fans. A bunch of groupies, groupied out, and they change like the weather. They change like draws, right? They change like Lamont Roach with the draws. And 1 minute they love you, then they hate you. You can't even get too involved. I mean, even me as a content creator, I experience it. If I get 100 predictions right, I'm the man. I get literally one prediction wrong. Sometimes I don't even get the prediction wrong. And people will lie and say, oh, Ego, you were wrong. What was I wrong about? I didn't even make a prediction. You know what I mean? I just talked about the fight. But that's the internet for you. So I support Tank on his revenge tour or whatever, him saying F y'all to the fans. That's what they deserve, because 1 minute they on your side, then the next you're not. As far as Lamont Roach looked bad, yo. Full stop. He looked bad. And I told you he was going to look bad. Here's why. Not that he fought horrible. I don't believe that. And I don't lie on my channel. You didn't fight horrible, but you didn't win. You wanted to become a 2-3 division champion, right? The reason he looked bad, let's break it down. Exhibit A. You are getting punched on. You look like an 80-year-old man in this picture getting punched on. You got a swole lip, broken hand, no belt, and I didn't want to see you strip right now because it's on bad. Chris Brown voice. I just want to see you stripped. You have no title at 130 pounds. You got a UK Jazza Dickens about to fight for your title, and you in no man's land, bruh. You are in the same position as fighters before you, like George Kambosos. When he fought Mickey Bay, he got a split decision win, and then he fought Lee Selby, got a split decision win. You're fighting, and you got back-to-back draws, so that doesn't help your stock. That doesn't help your stock at all, back-to-back draws, right? Nobody, because what can you say? You're like the scene in the movie Apocalypto where the dude was talking to Jaguar Paul, and he was like, I'm going to call you Almost. Lamont Almost Roach. I almost won. We live in a society, people love winners. They don't care about almost, right? I almost got a scholarship. I almost got a gold medal. I almost started a YouTube channel. Nobody cares, bro. They only care about the achievers, the go-getters, and what you do, right? So, busted lip, first knockdown of your career, attempt at a second division failed. You have no belt. Where do you go from here? And I blame Lamont Roach for so many things here, because I was the person telling you that Roach was getting too big for his britches, right? Lamont Roach was talking about fighting Gary Antoine Russell. Gary, not Gary, Mr. Gary Russell Jr., Slim, not him, the bigger, younger Gary Antoine Russell, right? Because Gary Antoine Russell lost to a guy in the AMs, and you beat the guy. So you think here in the current, you rocking with Gary Antoine Russell. Based on what I've seen, Gary Antoine Russell would stomp a mud hole in you at 140 pounds. You're not the puncher that you think you are, right? Even though you commit to your punches, you're really not that forceful a puncher. You never hurt Pitbull Cruz really. And if you did, it was very slight and subtle, right? Gary Antoine Russell is just too rugged. He's already had a loss, so he kind of learned from that, bounced back, and dominated El Rayo. I don't think Lamont Roach can contend with that. And like, here's another thing. You're doing just enough not to win, almost, in these fights. How do you beat Gary Antoine Russell at 140 pounds when you can't clearly beat a one-dimensional Pitbull Cruz? And you're breaking your hand in there trying to beat him. I don't see it. But this is what I'm talking about. Lamont Roach, he was streaming. He became a professional streamer. He was feeling himself. He kept talking about Gervonta Davis in every interview. The PBC would release the full fight, and he doing stream reviews like he Kai Cenat, like he iShow Speed Streamer of the Year, and he was doing all this extra stuff, right? And now it don't really matter when you almost achieve your goal. People don't care about that. We care about the winners, shakers, and movers. So at best, you might as well just fight Pitbull Cruz. You talked all that stuff about Tank took a knee. You know he wasn't hurt from that. It was whatever, the hair grease or whatever. You know he wasn't hurt. But you spent all this time talking about a knockdown. You spent all this time talking about a draw with Tank only to get both of them against a guy Tank already beat with one hand. God and the universe have a very funny way of delivering like karma and irony. Think about what I just said. Lamont Roach went on a victory lap for a draw. And he was like, man, that draw was fake. He tried to petition it with the commission, failed at that, only to get a draw versus Pitbull Cruz. You talk all this stuff about Tank getting knocked down and it was a 10-8 round and all this type of stuff, right? You talk all this head about that, and then you actually get knocked down, right? Tank, we don't know what was going on there. It didn't look like a punch caused a reaction, right? He said his eyes were burning. So Tank was actually smart. Is actually smart. Here's why. In boxing, they'll teach you, like in these moments, if you can create enough confusion, it kind of bails you out, right? Tank he did just that. They teach you this stuff in the amateurs, right? If you create like enough confusion and disorder in that brief time, like let's say you got buzzed a bit and then you tackled your opponent. You can't do it so flagrantly you're going to get disqualified. But if you do it in a subtle way, then that buys you the time because you guys are tussling, tumbled on the ground. Then the ref got to stand you up. Now you might make it out the round. They teach you stuff like that, little subtle things. Tank, eyes were burning, hair grease, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Took the knee, hopped up, and created enough confusion, enough doubt. It's almost like court where you can get off, even if you did it, you can get off if you can create enough doubt in the juror's mind. Beyond a reasonable doubt, they can't convict you. Like they're like, hey, I don't know. You didn't really, the prosecution didn't all the way make their point. So therefore, the person gets off. You know what I mean? So a little subtle trick. So I wasn't mad at it. But Lamont Roach kept talking about it. And then he got really knocked down and had to settle into the fight and completely abandon and change the game plan and realize who he is, a good boxer, right? Point blank, period. So I find it funny. I'm not mad at Tank. Talk your talk. I would be doing the same thing. People counter you out, talking about your Jake Paul bag got canceled, you fumbled. A lot of people try to turn their back on Tank. Fairweather fans, and then all of a sudden they became newfound Lamont Roach fans. Now with back-to-back draws, you look crazy. It would have been better for Lamont Roach if he would have beat Pitbull Cruz, because then it'd be a draw and a win. But now back-to-back draws, it kind of proves the point that Lamont Roach isn't doing enough in these fights to secure the victory. So I remain consistent. I said that I told you Tank won the Lamont Roach fight. And people were like, oh man, you're in love with Tank. You're just a Tank lover, dude. And they were mad at me. They was mad at me. And now it's a tragedy. You look stupid. I don't look stupid, but you look stupid. Because you guys were like, oh, what do you mean Tank really lost that? Why can't this boy get a certified win? Frank Martin, he didn't have no problems. Coming off a vicious knockout, he didn't have no controversial fight. He, boop, knocked his man out. Lamont Roach talked about a knockout. He was going to be the first to stop Pitbull Cruz, and then you didn't even really come close to doing that. You boxed well when you boxed, but the reason you lost, I firmly believe, or the reason you had a draw, it is all on you. So I'm not mad. Tank warned you about Pitbull having a hard head, and you didn't want to listen. You went out there fighting like his game, you know what I mean? And then when it don't work out for you and you getting spun around, now the fans are going to start turning on you, just like the same fans turned on Tank. That's why I tell you, guys, a lot of people in boxing are fake. They only go with what's hot at the moment. You know what I mean? They're not long-term fans. They just going for whoever has a hot moment. This is a generation we live in now. You know what I mean? Because if Tank do his next fight and knock somebody out and do a backflip, everyone gonna be on his nuts again. Period. And then all that fake love that Lamont Roach has, let's see how many people are really Roach fans and not Gervonta haters. Because the man has been stripped of his title. He's not a champion in any division, and he didn't achieve the intended goal in the Pitbull Cruz fight. Good luck. For more boxing news, subscribe.